Welcome to Pattern and Craft. I'm Courtney, and in today's video I wanted to show you how to make this beautiful snowflake crochet Christmas ornament. I have one here done in a cream color, so you can see how that turns out. And I have, as you can see, a written pattern for this already. So this I will go through as I'm making it. I know the last video, some people were saying it would be helpful to see the pattern chart along with the visual instructions, step by step showing the stitches. So I'm going to show you that as I go. And to make this ornament, you would need a number 2 fine weight yarn of any type that you prefer. This is a cotton acrylic blend by Premiere called Cotton Fair. I don't have the ball band right here, but I'll pop a little picture on the screen so you can see what I'm using. And I will link it in the description. I always link everything I'm using in the description, as well as any additional pertinent info. And in this case, I will link the pattern in case you want to have the printed out PDF version. You can get that from one of my pattern shops. I sell on Etsy, Ravelry, and a couple others. You can just use the video and that's for free. And then if you want this, you can, it's like a pretty low price. And I have a discount on my shop, or I think it's 20% off. So feel free to use that as well, linked in the description. The other items you'll need is a crochet hook. We're using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. I happen to like Clover Amour, so that's what I'm using, but use whatever hook of your preference. I have some scissors, I have a little darning needle, and that's it. So to make this, I am going to show you kind of my pattern as I go too. Here's the title page, just showing what it looks like. And then on the next page, we have some notes about the pattern, the materials, the finished size, and the quantity and such information. Again, you can use any yarn that you want as long as it's sort of a number 2 fine yarn or a sport weight, anything in that range. You could go up to a DK or even a worsted if you want a larger, more rustic look, but for this little kind of dainty looking snowflake, that's the size you want to use, like this. And I find that cotton is a little bit difficult to work with. Acrylic is really good, 100% acrylic, or in this case, it's a cotton acrylic blend. You could also probably try wool or whatever else that you have on hand. They don't take a whole lot. As you can see here, it only takes 12.7 yards approximately. So when I get this ball of 100 grams of yarn, I can get up to 25 of these snowflakes out of it. So it's also good for using up leftovers. I have my stitches here and the symbols that will be used on the next page in the pattern chart. So you can see we're going to use chains, single crochet, double crochet, slip stitch, double crochet 2 together, double crochet 6 together, and picot stitches that use a 3-chain picot. And all the other abbreviations you'll need for the written pattern are there. Here is the pattern chart. So this is basically the same thing as this, just written visually as the stitches. So each of these represents all of the stitches used in here. I have a little key here. The colors, by the way, are just indicating different rounds. Sometimes I just make my pattern charts all black and white. For this particular pattern, I wanted it to be clear which round was which. So I have the color key here. And then I have my stitch key over here. So we have this little symbol represents a chain. This symbol represents a single crochet. This symbol represents a double crochet. This black filled in dot represents a slip stitch. This represents a double crochet 2 together. This represents a double crochet 6 together. And this represents our 3-chain picot. So you can see how those stitches correspond to the symbols in our pattern chart. And you can see here we have our, also this center circle is a magic ring. I probably should have had that on here. but we'll go through that in the video as soon as I start doing the demonstration. If you want to just skip to the creation of this, you can go to this timestamp and just start working, but I wanted to kind of go over the pattern chart a little bit and show how those work, because some people are kind of hesitant to use pattern charts, but I find they're a lot easier than going through pages and pages of written instructions and following every visual step. And I have that for you if that's what you prefer. In my patterns, I show techniques, I show each step. I have it all written out in traditional crochet format, written crochet pattern format. But if you have a pattern chart, you can just use that if you know what the symbols indicate. So we already showed the symbols. Maybe I'll zoom this out a little so you can see them at the same time as I go over the pattern chart. There we go. So I'll use I'll use my scissors to point. So here we have our magic ring in the center, or any ring start that you prefer. You could chain 4 and slip stitch for a chain ring in the center, or you could do the thing where you chain 2 and then work into the first chain, whatever center you like to start with for a round crochet item. I prefer magic ring because you can control how tight this ring is. Then we have 1, 2, 3 chains. So generally when you're starting from the center, where you're starting from is from a chain because you're working up. Whereas when you're working stitches, you're kind of working down into the magic ring. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 chains. These 3 chains represent the same as a double crochet, which are these symbols here. And then 1 more chain for in between. And then we have 1 double crochet into the ring, chain 1, another double crochet into the ring, chain 1, another double crochet into the ring. Remember, this symbol represents a double crochet, which is simply what this stitch is here. And then you can read that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 double crochets, plus that 3 chains here that represents a double crochet. So we have a total of 10 double crochets worked into the magic ring, each separated by a chain 1. That's our first round. Then for our second round, once we're done this, we're gonna slip stitch here. And then for our second round, we're gonna chain up, because when you're working from the bottom, you always have to chain. You can't just go right into making stitches. So we're gonna chain 2, and then we're going to create the second half of this double crochet 2 together, but for the first one you have to chain this leg of the stitch, then you can work down that second stitch. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 chains. Then we have a regular double crochet 2 together. So you make that stitch, then you chain 4, make that same double crochet 2 together, chain 4, repeat all the way around. Slip stitch right here. Slip stitch into the chain space, and then we're ready to start round 3. And this is only a 4 round pattern, so it's pretty simple, except for maybe this stitch might be a little complicated, but I'll show you exactly how to do that in a moment. Then you can see we chain up right here, kind of in the middle of the stitch, chain 2, then we make our other 2 double crochets, and we're essentially really making a double crochet 3 together first, but then we're going to come around and then finish it off here and close it. And then we chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, work another 6 double crochet together, chain 5, 6 double crochet together, chain 5, all the way around 10 times. Each of these, you're getting 10 of these little stitches, because our Crochet Snowflake ultimately has 10 points. It started with 10 here, it ends with 10 points here. So we go all the way around, and then we're going to finish off this stitch. I'll show you how. Slip stitch into the top, and then do a final round, which is single crochets into the chain space, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Make a picot. I'll show you how to do that in a second. 4 more single crochets into this chain space, not into the chains, just into the chain space, so it's real easy. Then repeat 4 single crochets into the chain space, picot, 4 single crochets into the chain space, repeat all the way around, and then we're going to finish off. So that's how pattern charts work. You can read them a lot faster than a written pattern, and it's a lot easier not to get lost, I feel like, because when you read a written pattern, some people are more verbal than visual though, so this works better for them, where you write out every single step in what you're doing, and they like to read along and do that. I'm more visual. I do include photos for my patterns of each step, and then I love to have this pattern chart, which I include with, I think, almost all of my patterns, because that's just how my brain works to actually see what I'm doing, and I can count really easily how many I need to do, and I can see where the stitches go into each other. So that's really clear. So that's why I provide pattern charts with my patterns, and I'm going to have this off to the side while we work, and I'm not even going to refer to the written pattern portion of this pattern while I do the demo, but it is there for you if that's what you prefer. Feel free to download it and use it. It is a paid pattern, but like I said, it's not very expensive, and there is a discount code. Okay, like I said, my example is in the off-white or cream color, but I'm going to be working with the white for this tutorial. Actually, maybe it's better if I don't have this right on screen while I'm doing it, because white on white might be an issue, but we can kind of look at what we're doing and then do it and then refer back. So we're going to just do this first round like I talked about, magic ring, chain 4, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, all the way around till we have 10 repeats of that into the chain or into the ring. So the way I like to make my magic rings is I hold the tail of the yarn, like the cut end, in these 2 fingers, and then I stick these 2 fingers like that. And then I go and I wrap this yarn around. So I go from the front to the back, and then from the back to the front over to the left. Now I have sort of this X shape. Now I'm going to hold my working yarn with my thumb. I'm going to take my crochet hook, go under the top right leg of my X, go over the top left leg of my X with my hook kind of pointed that way so I can catch the yarn. I'm going to pull that yarn under and twist. It just kind of naturally twists as you pull and pull out. Then I'm going to hold this with my finger and sort of hold my loop and yarn over. See, I'm holding everything with this index finger. I'm going to hold my loop and pull that through. Pull the one loop through the loop on my hook. That makes a chain 1, and it sort of locks your ring into place, so now you don't need to hold it. It's just created. I unwind my tail. I've got this, and I'm going to work over my tail and the ring at the same time. See, here's my tail. Here's my ring. Here's my working yarn, which I'm going to now wrap around my fingers to work, and I'm ready to go. So I have 1 chain. I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3 more, because remember we needed 4 chains to start. 3 of these represents a double crochet plus 1 chain in between. Now we're going to yarn over. We're going to work into our ring and over the tail, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, that's a double crochet. Now we've got 2 essentially double crochets. Since this chain 3 represents 1, we need to do 8 more, and we're going to do a chain 1 in between each. So there's my chain 1. Here's my next double crochet. And this is all US terms, by the way. I should have mentioned that sooner. Chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the ring, chain 1, and my ring's a little wide. I'm going to pull this tail just a little bit so it's more tight. And I'm just going to keep that tail looped with the ring, so I'm working over both. I've already made my chain 1, so I need a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And if you don't know where you're at yet, or if you got lost, you can just go ahead and count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 2 more. So chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, my last double crochet here, and chain 1. That's my whole round. Now I just pull the tail, make sure it doesn't get caught and loop anywhere. Make sure you're pulling, get it tight. That closes your ring in the center, just pulling that tail. It's real easy. Now I just need to close this round. So I'm going to insert my hook just into this chain space. I'm not going to bother trying to find exactly where to slip stitch into this stitch. I'm just going to go straight in, pull up my loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on the hook. That's a slip stitch to close. So there we go, round 1 is done. We have 10 double crochets, each separated by a chain 1. Next step. So as you can see, we've completed this round here. Now we're going to do this round here. And we always kind of work in this direction. So chain 2, and then we're going to make, and that's going to be half of a double crochet 2 together. Then we're going to finish that double crochet 2 together, chain 4, double crochet 2 together into the next chain space, and so on. So here we go. We're going to make half of a double crochet 2 together, starting from the bottom. So chain 2. Now we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And now we just need to yarn over and pull through both of these loops. And we've made a double crochet 2 together. I'll show you how to make one the regular way. That's how you make it when you're coming up from the bottom. And we chain 4, like the pattern chart says. There's 4 chains. Now we work into the next chain space, because these 2 went into this chain space. Now we just need to work into the next one. So to make a double crochet 2 together into this chain space, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook and pull up a loop into that next chain space. Now yarn over, pull through 2, but don't finish. Normally if we're doing a double crochet, we would yarn over and pull through 2 again, but we're not going to do that. We are going to yarn over, but now we're going to pull up another loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. So now we have 3 loops on the hook and we have 2 partial double crochets made. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that creates a double crochet 2 together. So it's joined at the top, 2 double crochets, but joined into 1 single stitch at the top. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to do it again. So I'll show it again. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's half a double crochet. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 2 half double crochets. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. You've joined both half double crochets and completed the stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, and just keep repeating this, making the first half of our double crochet 2 together, the second half of our double crochet 2 together, yarn over and pull through all the loops, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see what we're getting here. We're kind of getting these little petals, each one going into the chain space, 1 petal per chain space, and then they're creating chain spaces for the next round to work into with these chain 4s between the double crochet 2 togethers. So that's what that's looking like. Just keep working. into the next chain space, double crochet 2 together, finish the stitch, chain 4, double crochet 2 together into the next chain space, finish the stitch, chain 4, into the next chain space, double crochet 2 together. This part's the only tricky part, is only pulling through the 2 loops and then pulling through all. That's the only part I find a little bit tricky with this. So chain 4, again, double crochet is yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And then to make the second double crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, only 2. Then yarn over, pull through all 3, chain 4. Only got a couple more to go. Only pull through 2, now pull through all 3. Now it might look like we're done and we're ready to join, but there's actually one more chain space here. We need to work our last double crochet 2 together into, so don't skip that one. Oops, I lost my loop. If that happens, just go back and make it again. There we go. Now chain 4 for our final chain space, and then count to make sure we have the right amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's correct. Now we need to slip stitch into the top of this stitch here. So we have the 2 together. It's this little V right before our chain 4. So we want to just insert our hook into that spot, the top of the stitch, pull through, pull up a loop, and then pull that through the loop on the hook for a slip stitch to join. And I do want to slip stitch into the chain space also, so 2 slip stitches there. Now we have our second round completed. You can see it matches up to the pattern chart. So we have first our little wheel in the center, then we have these little petals with the chain 4 between that are made up of 2 double crochets together. So it looks just like the pattern chart. So that's why I really like these. They really match up and you can see exactly what you're doing in each step. Next, and then remember we did our slip stitch into the stitch. That little line here is the top of the stitch. So we slip stitch there and then into the chain space. So it follows the pattern chart, what we did. Now we're gonna chain 2 and then create 2 more half double crochets and then join them at the top. And then we're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, make 5 chains. And then we're gonna do a regular double crochet 6 together. And you'll notice that these 3 go into this chain space, then we chain, then these 3 stitches go into this chain space, then the second 3 stitches of this big cluster stitch here essentially is what we're making. Those 3 stitches will go into the next chain space. Then we chain, then we make 3 from this stitch into this chain space, make the second 3 into the next chain space, and then join the stitch and then chain. I'll show you what that means, but I thought that would be helpful to mention. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to make our partial double crochet. So yarn over, hold on, let me get closer. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, hold that stitch there, don't finish the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 again. So we have 3 partial double crochets on our hook, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now remember, the next 3 stitches go into the same chain space. I'm kind of just shoving my stitches over so I have enough room. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Don't finish the stitch yet. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we did 3 partial stitches into the same chain space. Now we're going to make our next partial stitches into the next chain space. We have 3 here, need to make 3 into the next chain space. So pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So I did that 3 times, 1, 2, 3 into the next chain space. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on our hook, because we have the loop from the start, a loop for each of the 6 stitches, so pull through all 7. Now we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is our DC 6 together. This one's only half of one because we worked only into this half of the chain space. We need to come around at the end and finish this one off when we finish the round. But for now, we're just going to do this stitch all the way around, this one we just made. I'll show you that one again. It's a little bit more confusing. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we did that 3 times into the same chain space as we were already working into. 4 loops on the hook. Now we're going to work 3 into the next chain space. 1, 2, 3. Now we can see we have 7 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull that loop through all 7. We made another DC 6 together with half the stitches in this chain space and half the stitches in the next chain space. See that? Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we just need to keep making these DC 6 together all the way around until we get back here and then join it. So you can kind of see that we're almost done. We're doing this round right now. And then we just need to make this last round next. So I've done my chain 5. I'm going to do my next DC 2 together. I'll show that one, and then I'll probably skip ahead since they take a little while to make, and you don't need to watch me make it 10 times. So there's the first 3 into this chain space. Now I make the second 3 into the next chain space. I have all 7 loops on my hook. Yarn over and pull through 7. Then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just keep going around. I'm going to skip ahead until I'm close to the end because I do need to show you how to finish this half DC 6 together that we started, but we need to finish it. So keep making your DC 6 together all the way around, and I'll join you in a moment. Okay, I'm back, and I have completed all 9 of my complete DC 6 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm back where we have the started one in the next chain space, and we're working into this chain space. And I've made my last DC6 together and chain 5. Now I need to do this join, so yarn over and make our first half double crochet, our second one, and our third one into this same chain space. So I just made 3 partial double crochets into this same chain space. Now I'm going to sort of do a slip stitch and complete the stitch at the same time. I'm holding these 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to take my hook into the top of the stitch that we partially completed right here. These are the 5 chains between. This is the top of the stitch. So I'm just going to insert my hook there like that. Pull up a loop and then pull that loop through the 4 loops on my hook. There you go. And now I'm going to slip stitch into the chain space to complete the round. Like that. So that creates a finished DC6 together that looks pretty close to the rest of the ones that we made. So that's round 3. Let's compare to our pattern chart. So we've just completed the round that's in the purple with our DC6 together with chain 5s in between. These are just visual representations of all the little stitches we're making. And next we're going to do the final round. We've ended over here. You can see the slip stitch that I made. And then we're going to be making 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets into this chain space. This chain space created by the chain 5 that we made. Then we're going to do a picot, then we're going to do 4 more single crochet into this chain space, and then repeat that whole pattern the rest of the way around till we have a total of 10. There is an option to do a loop for one of your picots so that you get this loop effect and you can hang your crochet snowflake from it. I'm going to omit that step because I now prefer to just make my crochet snowflakes complete with no loop and then just put a little, either a metallic thread, a little piece of yarn, or a pretty ribbon through this space here and just hang them from that. So I'm not going to do the loop. There is instructions in my pattern if you do want to do the optional loop instead of a picot. You just essentially make more chains and replace one of our picots with that. So let's make that now. This is our 4th and final round. Make sure your work's right side up. And because we slip stitched into this next chain space and because single crochets don't really need a chain, some people do chain 1, but I don't feel it's necessary. So I'm just going to go right into making a single crochet by pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through the 2 loops on my hook. That's 1. Again, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 3 now. Just going to shift the stitches so that they're filling up about half of the chain space. And pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 for our 4th single crochet of this half. Now we're going to make the picot. So this is a chain 3 picot, so I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 chains. Now I'm going to create the picot, which is where you slip stitch to the stitch that these chains came out of. There are a few ways to do it. I prefer to go through this front loop. This is the front loop of the stitch we just came out of. You can also call it the bar, and then the front leg of that same stitch. So to do that, I'm inserting my hook into this loop, which is the top of the stitch, just the front loop, and then this leg of the stitch, just the front leg. Now I'm going to make sure my yarn kind of comes over like this. I'm going to catch it and pull through both of those loops, and then pull that loop through the loop on my hook like a slip stitch. I'll show that again in a moment just so you get it. Now we go straight back into making 4 more single crochets into the same chain space. So 1, 2, it can be a tight fit, so just shift your stitches over, 3 and 4. But the reason I put so many stitches in is so this is tight and then it sort of holds its own structure without having, holds its own structure without having to be starched or anything. You can just do either a steam block or a wet block on these where you use a garment steamer and steam it, or you can do a wet block where you soak it in hot water for like 10 minutes and then lay it flat on a towel and let it air dry. And that will flatten everything out, but these, like the high stitch count into these little spaces sort of gives it a strong structure so that you don't need to add starch or do any special things to make your snowflake hold its shape. You just have to do that block to make it lay flat. So anyway, back to what we were doing. Sorry about that little tangent. So I'm going to show one more time, but basically we're just going to create this little combo in every chain space. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet, a picot, and then 4 single crochet into the chain space. So now we're going to do the same thing into the next chain space. So pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and repeat that 4 times. And then you'll notice I'm kind of past the halfway point of this chain space, so I'm gonna just shift my stitches over so that they are only taking up about half of that chain space. Now I'm gonna make my picot, so chain 1, 2, 3, and then insert the hook into the front top loop of that stitch and the front leg of that stitch of the single crochet. Bring your yarn over to your hook, pull that through to pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on your hook for a slip stitch to complete the picot. Now 4 more single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that makes our second little point with this cute little picot at the end. And once you have made all of these, you'll get these cute little sort of petally points with a little extra point at each center that creates that sort of snowflakey look. So I'll show you one more time. Go to the next chain space, make 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, shift your stitches, 4, now a picot, 1, 2, 3, insert here and here, pull your yarn over, pull it through again, picot. Shift if you need to, then make 4 more single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. I'm going to keep doing that all the way around until we get back to here, and then I'll show you how to finish off. So just keep making these until you have 10, 1 into each chain space. Okay, I am to my last point. I'm making 4 single crochets. I did want to show that when you make this first single crochet, that is a good time to just kind of tighten that stitch down, which sort of cinches everything in and makes that point nice and defined. Then go ahead and make the other 3, 1, 2, 3 single crochets for a total of 4. Then make the picot, 1, 2, 3. Insert, insert, yarn to the front, pull through, and now the last 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then this last, the 4th one kind of takes care of this little yarn and hides it. So 4. It all looks so nice and clean and tidy now. Now I am not going to slip stitch to finish. I'm actually just going to pull my loop up, cut my yarn, and pull my loop the rest of the way out. And now I'm going to finish off. So I'm going to take my darning needle and thread that yarn tail through. And I'm going to do an invisible join. So to do that, we have this yarn coming out at the top of the stitch we just made. We're going to skip the next stitch, which is this one. Actually, let's count. You should have 4 single crochet here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to skip this first one, and we're going to go sideways through the top 2 loops of the second single crochet. And then we're going to go back down into the middle in between the top 2 stitches, or the top 2 loops of this stitch that we have the yarn coming out of. And then we're going to pull it to the back through the stitch. So that creates a nice invisible join, because a lot of people finish off with a slip stitch, a chain 1, pull the yarn through and pull it out, and then you end up with a knot, whereas this gives a nice invisible join. And then we're just going to hide our tail in the work. Maybe, actually, why don't we go into this, go back out here, and go through this little tunnel of stitches. Here is a good place to hide a yarn tail. So I'm just going to go through the bottom of these little stitches that are all in a row, and through here. We don't have to go crazy with the weaving in here, because these are going to hang on a tree or a window, or make a garland with them or something. They're not going to be something you're going to be wearing, or like a blanket that'll get washed a million times. So you don't really need to go crazy with the weaving in. It's not going to unravel. Then we have our center. So we're going to pull that tail, and we're going to finish off that one as well by threading our yarn into the needle. And here, if you did do a magic loop and you didn't do an alternative center, you will have basically a couple loops of yarn that you worked these stitches over. Now you can see if I pull the yarn, it's kind of, you can tell it's coming from this side. It like looped around this way, right? If I pulled it and it was coming out of this side, it would pull to that side, but you can see it's going in a clockwise direction. You want to continue weaving in a clockwise direction. You do not want to go back and go counterclockwise, or you will undo the loop and all your stitches will have nothing to hold on to. So go back through these stitches one more time or 2 more times, but continue going in a clockwise direction, the way the yarn is already headed in, so that you reinforce your magic ring with more yarn rather than unwinding it by accident by going the wrong direction. I think that's probably why some people hate magic ring. They say they come out, they say they fail. I have a feeling they're either not working over the tail, so it's just a single loop of yarn holding all those stitches, and then they're not working back through it with their tail, or when they when they weave in their ends, they're going the wrong direction and they're unwinding that magic ring. That's my theory anyway. So this way we're reinforcing it. Not that we need to really reinforce it all that much. Again, this is just an ornament. This is decorative. It's not going to get used or washed or anything. So it doesn't have to be super durable. All right, so that's our cute little snowflake. Let's look at it from the front. We have our cute little picots on each little point. We have 10 little petals, 10 little points. I know snowflakes are 6-sided, but we can pretend. And here we go. We're going to look at our pattern chart one last time to see how that corresponds. And we can see that the pattern chart corresponds exactly to the stitches. We made these stitches. They look pretty similar. It's larger, but that is what you're getting. You're visually seeing essentially what you're making when you're looking at a pattern chart. And each of these little symbols represents a type of stitch. So that's our finished snowflake. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you try and make these. I would love to see if you post any, if you make any and post them on Instagram. Please tag me at Pattern and Craft. I would love to see your work. But it looks like I might have for this one, because I know it's the same yarn, just a different color. Looks like I might have sized up to a 3.75 or maybe even a 4mm hook for that one, because you can see it came out a little larger, just slightly, but a little bit larger and a little bit more open. So that's another thing to consider if you want a larger but less stiff. This is definitely more flexible, so it's not going to hold its shape as well. So if you do go up in hook size, you're going to get a larger snowflake, but you're also it's going to be a little less stiff of a final project compared to this one where I'd used the 3.5mm hook. So whether you choose to use cream or white or a bright color or something metallic, have fun with these. I hope you make them. I hope you enjoyed everything today. If you have any questions, just leave a comment. Don't forget to check the description for the pattern link and any other notes and the materials I used and links to those. And I will see you next time. Happy crafting!